Hello, everybody. Welcome to the CT Sports Talent Show. My name is Chris Saunders. I'm pleased to have on with me a right-handed pitcher from Cromwell, the home of the champions, as they like to call it. And that's not a saying, it's on the gym. Connor Slifer is with me. Connor, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Before I go any further, I just want to say congratulations on committing to Western New England College, WNE. Congratulations on that. That's awesome. And it's one of those schools that I've always really respected, not just for baseball. I know
Mhm.
their football program is very successful. They've got a lot of Connecticut kids. There
Yep.
was actually a young man that played there back in the day when I was broadcasting for the Bristol Blues some years ago. I don't know if the name sounds familiar. He played for Greenwich. Laparco, Alex Laparco, does that name ring a
Yeah.
bell?
Yep.
One of the best hitters I probably have seen. Not very big, not very tall, but just a pesky hitter and really had a command of the strike zone. So it's great to
Mhm.
see another Connecticut talent like yourself heading there.
Yeah. He's at Endicott, I believe now, but he actually was the one that recruited me to come to WNE. So
Yep. I'm telling you, you and I were just talking about Rinkovich, Zach, right? And kind of
yep.
rising up the ranks, and hopefully he has an opportunity to coach in college one day.
Yeah.
Alex is one of those guys that has been around the game his whole life. I know when talking with his family, great kid. And now seeing him, like you said, Endicott, he's going to keep, moving on up.
Yeah. I love that dude. I mean, the first interaction I had with him, immediately like, when you go up to a guy and you're like, yeah, good dude.
Yeah.
Immediate like good dude right there.
Connor, it's one of those things as far as this season is concerned. You and I were just talking about the weather. This is
Hmm.
what kind of stinks about starting so early in the spring. And
Yep.
I know there's been pushes about trying to get the season a little longer, but then you run into trying to play the games during the calendar year of school.
Hmm.
Obviously, proms and graduations, that gets a little dicey and sticky. So for you now being kind of through it the last couple of years, dealing with the Northeast weather, right?
Yep.
70s one day. We had snow this morning. Who would have known?
Yeah.
How are you as a pitcher kind of able to deal with the changing of the weather and kind of just really, because I know former pitcher myself,
Hmm.
routine is huge, right? Without
Sure.
routine, you're nothing.
Hmm.
How are you able to stay in your routine, but also knowing like, hey, I'm going to have to adjust a little bit?
I think just staying consistent is a huge part of it. Obviously, the weather has a huge impact on everything. If the ball's a little wet, if it's, hot and you're tired, whatever it may be. But just staying consistent, I would say, doing what I am able to do, whether it's inside, whether it's outside, whether it's in the weight room, whatever it is, just having as much of my routine possible as the weather allows, I think allows me to kind of be ready for it. And also like acclimating myself to the weather. I'm throwing in the winter inside, but some days, obviously not in like the 10-degree weather, but if it's sunny out and 30, I'll go throw 100, 120 feet, just
Hmm.
trying to get my body used to everything. I love playing in the rain. I think it's great. I think it's so much fun. Um, Playing in the heat, obviously living in Connecticut and in the Northeast, it gets super hot, super dry. So I think you kind of have to be able to pitch in that weather.
Hmm.
Um, so when it's like that, just staying hydrated, make sure you got enough food, got enough sleep the night before, got enough liquids in the dugout, enough, whatever it is, enough shade, and just really trying to slow your heart rate down as much as possible. I think in baseball in general, it's important, but especially in the heat, just being able to calm yourself and take a deep breath and get as much oxygen through you as possible is huge.
I mean, it's so crucial, and this goes beyond just baseball, right? Of being able to take care of your body before the game. I mean, I know during the football season when I was calling games this past year, I
Mhm.
can't tell you, regardless when it was 90 degrees to begin the season, and then all the way when, the last game I did, not Watertown Joe Barlow, but for the NVL broadcast,
Mhm.
I did Naugatuck and the Blue Wave of Darien. Kids were
Okay.
cramping up then. Kids were
Mhm.
cramping up before. And
Right.
again, I didn't ask every kid, hey, did you eat enough bananas? Did you drink enough water? I know everybody's body is different, but
Mhm.
that's kind of where, and it sounds like yourself has kind of found like, okay, I can eat this, this, and this. Probably shouldn't do this or that because it didn't work out well last time. Just kind of knowing your body, what it
Mhm.
can and can't take to be able to perform at its best.
Yeah, that's been a huge process is learning how my body is. When I really started taking baseball seriously, that I think has been my biggest struggle
Hmm.
because before, when you're a kid, you eat whatever you want and you go out and you have enough energy to play and you're
Yeah.
good. Getting older, not that I'm that old, I'm 17, but my body's obviously changed a lot. Being able to pitch and play at a high level
Mm-hmm.
throughout the entire year, it's not just spring, you need summer, you need fall, especially winter, staying consistent through the winter. I think learning my body has been up there for one of the most important things and definitely the most challenging thing for me.
Is there anything in particular that was there anything that you maybe had tried that, okay, this didn't work that you can share and now works maybe if you tried something else?
Um, I mean, I've tried carb loading, I guess would be one that
Yeah.
personally I don't know if it works. I've tried it. I don't really feel that different versus when I don't carb load, but
Mm-hmm.
if it works, it works. But the biggest thing has been sleep for sure. I mean, learning how to sleep the right way and sleep enough has been huge for me. And learning, how long to eat before you sleep, so you're not, deprived in the morning, but you're not, super heavy. And if you
Mm-hmm.
have an 8 a.m. game, being able to be ready for that game and sleep has definitely been the most important part of learning my body.
It's all a science,
Yeah,
really, when you
sure.
think about it.
Yep. I don't know the science, but I'll pretend to.
Hey, nobody knows the science except for maybe probably a handful of dudes in Major League Baseball.
Right.
Honestly, like let's
Yeah.
be real, right? I know your favorite player is Garrett Cole. I love Kyle Hendricks.
Mhm.
Obviously, me being left-handed, my idol growing up was Andy Pettit. Loved him.
Mhm.
Obviously, there's various others. I know I never saw Koufax pitch, but
Mhm.
who could ever? I've seen video of him for years with the big breaking ball and all that, and I could go on and on and on. Johan Santana. I know the Mets blew out his arm, but he was fantastic for so many years. Um, for you specifically, as you have been obviously you're still growing up only 17 and still being able to continue what you're doing,
Mhm.
is there anybody that you watched at a young age that kind of like you gravitated towards too pretty early on?
Professionally?
Professionally, it could have been a college player, it could have been a kid maybe you watched growing up if you want the Cromwell games, whatever.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. So interestingly enough, my cousin, I don't know if you'll know the name, Matt Caracity.
Yes, St. John's, right-handed pitcher, played for the
Yep.
Rockies.
Yeah, so he's actually my cousin.
That's your cousin.
That's my cousin. Yep.
He was very good.
Yeah, very good.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
But yeah, I mean, I grew up with him, so ever since I can remember, he's been coming over for whatever my birthday. Obviously, he can't now because he's playing professionally, but
Yeah.
and I think I was a little too young to understand really what it took. But as I've gotten older, being able to talk to him about things,
Yeah.
David Sorensen out of Berlin, he's been huge for me.
Yep.
Learning not even just baseball, just like how to go about life, how to talk to people the right way and be respectful. And I know that all sounds super cliche, but it's important and it matters. And when you're doing stuff like this and you're looking at colleges and stuff like that,
Yeah.
I'd say pitching wise, just watching baseball in general. I don't think there was a specific person. I think
Hmm.
just watching the different levels from high school to college to the pros to my little league team to whatever it may be.
Hmm.
I just tried to look for the differences in the older kids,
Hmm.
and I say kids, professionals, however old that will get. Looking at what made them better and what allowed them to get to that point from when they were at my point, and
Hmm.
just trying to emulate that.
Real quick with your cousin, where is he now?
He is in AAA in Albuquerque,
Okay, so that would be Albuquerque. What team is affiliated? I'm kind of having a brain fart.
Rockies.
Rock, so still with the oh yeah, because I forgot Rocky switched over. I'm
Yep,
thinking double A yard goats. Okay, okay.
yep,
I know he's had some opportunities with the major league club. I remember watching him a few
yep.
times.
Yeah, he made it up there in 2016. I think was his first time we were
Yep,
able to go see him in DC for a series, which was awesome.
that must have been cool.
Yeah, it was super cool. That was my first like MLB experience, and I got to see my cousin pitch. So it was so cool.
So I need you to ask if you have an opportunity. I
Hmm.
want for you to ask him for me, then get it back to me.
Yep.
Two questions.
Okay.
How was it facing Bryce Harper?
He struck him out.
Just curious about that's great. I want to hear about that. I want to
Gotcha.
hear about that whole thing if he can explain that to you. And then
Okay.
second, when he first stepped on a major league mound,
Mhm.
I want to know his first thought that went through his head.
Okay.
So if you can get that back to me, or if I'd love to get him on too, that'd be great sometime. But if he can tell you and then you tell me, I would
Mhm.
love to know.
Awesome. I can definitely do that. Of
Sweet. I appreciate that. So
course.
back to yourself. So I'd love to hear about, I mean, you're talking about the pitchers and that's awesome.
Mhm.
Your repertoire without giving up too much. I'm not going to tell you I'm not going to ask you what you throw because then you're giving away too much. But the development of that, I've seen pitchers, no matter if it's baseball or softball, where sometimes they start out with one pitch because let's be honest, at a young age, you really don't have many. The
Right.
special ones do, but a lot of them you're kind of developing the curve,
Mhm.
the slider, the two seam, the change, now
Yep.
the sweepers, whatever you want to call them.
Mhm.
For you, did you kind of always have your repertoire from the beginning, or was it something that slowly developed?
It was definitely something that slowly developed.
Okay.
Um, Up until high school, I really only knew how to throw a fastball and a
Okay.
changeup, which I just kind of slowed my arm down a little bit. Um, but I think throwing more my freshman year, again, pretty much only had a fastball.
Mhm.
Um, and then I started just playing around with grips and doing throwing a lot more and, trying to figure things out for myself and looking up videos and how to throw a curveball and how to throw, stuff like that. Um, and just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And eventually something clicked and ran with it. And there's been obviously been tweaks because you can't stay the same, especially getting bigger and getting, growing into my body more. It's changed. The way I throw has changed. So my
Mhm.
hand size has changed. So I've had to change a lot of things.
Yes.
So it's still a process, but definitely did not have anything at the start.
What's the now you talked about obviously your hand size grew, obviously your height in terms of being on the mound probably grew too. So what's your size right now?
I'm 6'1", 6'2" on a good day.
Okay.
Uh,
Wear a couple
from
pairs of socks and you'll be
Yeah,
6'2".
exactly. We'll call it 6'2".
Okay. So I'm assuming you'll probably, not knowing the size of your relatives or your parents, but I'm assuming you'll probably grow a little bit more.
Uh, Maybe
Okay.
it's like I'm not done growing, I guess you could say. Like for sure, I don't know how much taller I'm gonna get.
Okay.
I can't imagine it would be that much, but I also don't know if I'm gonna stay at this height. So I'd imagine maybe an inch.
So the reason why I ask is because you kind of talking about, I mean, I was just watching a pitcher, Matt Manning, right? First round pick, ninth overall years ago for the Tigers. His dad played Brick Manning, played overseas and then played for 1 year, I think for the Clippers or something like that. But anywho, he had to grow into his body, right? Long arms, long legs, trying to get everything on point. It's, it's funny because I hear about when I was growing up, you want to be this tall pitcher because of this, that, and another. But it's when you're that tall, it's hard to have everything in sync to be
For
able to
sure.
get everything going through, regardless of take away the pitching aside, you got to learn
Mhm.
to be able to get command of anything,
Right.
right? So my question to you is, how were you able to, and I know you're still working on it,
Mhm.
but with you kind of growing into your body, I mean, arms, I say when I'm calling games and I see a tall pitcher, I see arms, elbows, head, knees, and toes. I see everything, right? So how are you able to kind of keep things, or are you still working on that as
Mhm.
far as keeping your mechanics compact, sound, whatever word you want to use?
Yeah, definitely still working on it. One thing I do, which I get made fun of for a lot on my team, is when we're inside throwing bullpens, I take my shoes off, and sometimes even my sock. I know it sounds weird, but I learned it at Swanson. You can feel the ground so much more, and so starting with my foot, my bare foot or whatever, with the sock on the floor, just to allowing myself to feel the energy flow through my leg and into the ground, and really stay strong on my back leg. It all starts. You say it all starts at the legs, so starting at my legs, I'm able to okay check that off the list, and then kind of just having a I don't want to say a routine, but kind of a
Mhm.
step by step process on okay when my legs here, this is where I have to be, and then my next step when I extend, and then my hips, and whatever the
Mhm.
whole the whole shebang. Um, just being able to think about that step by step. And then from there, you go, all right, I'm going to do this a little faster and a little faster and a little faster, and maybe try this a little bit and try to extend a little more and,
Mm,
get more torque. And again, just toying with different things. You don't know if it works until you try it. So
mm.
just trying as much as I can and finding what works and finding what doesn't. I think that's the most important part of the process for sure.
I think the John Sterling saying is you learn something new every day watching baseball. I think I just learned something by listening to someone speaking about baseball. I've never heard that before. I think that's really unique and pretty freaking cool if you ask me. I think
Yeah,
that's
I get a lot of jokes about it, but it
hey,
works.
if it
So
ain't broke, don't fix it.
exactly.
Now, and that kind of goes to my next thing because I know, and I'm not putting like pitching coaches on blast for this. By no means am I not doing that. But
Mhm.
I felt like when I was a kid, there was you got to do it like this, the whole like arm up, arm down, drive, the whole thing. Well, things have evolved. Obviously, technology has. You got Rapsodo with this with the spin rate and everything else kind of going in biometrics. Like you were
Yep.
just talking about that earlier.
Mhm.
And I know the big fad couple years ago, it may still be the same thing. They were trying to not mimic a Aroldis Chapman, but getting that twist, right? The elastic band. I know David Cohn mentions that many times about how rubbery, right, Chapman is as far as like a slingshot, and then he explodes, and
Mhm.
you see 105 from him, right? Even though he's in his mid 30s.
Right.
How is it difficult for you to try to avoid trying to be put in the same mold as everybody and keep your unique, how unique you are aside from taking your socks off and all that and feeling the ground, but
Yeah.
just mechanics, right? And not trying to copy what the classic cookie cutter mold is of a pitcher.
Yeah. It's definitely challenging just because you're faced with all these high power guys and
Yeah.
you see a bunch of guys doing the same thing, but you also, you know your body more than anybody else does. So however you want to do it, however you go about it, it's your career and the way you do things. Um, so I think just knowing what works for me
Hmm.
and trusting myself to trust myself pretty much. I know how my body's going to work. I know that, yeah, this might work for this guy, but it's not going to work for me, or this might not work for this guy. I know it'll work for me. Just kind of trusting myself has been, again, a huge learning experience. But it's something that I'm getting better at. And I think that's a very important part is, you have to be able to trust yourself because at the end of the day, you're the one on the mound, you're the one making the pitch. You
Hmm.
know, it's kind of a gut thing. Sometimes you have to change when you're on the mound from pitch to pitch, and it's just kind of how it goes.
Connor, I appreciate you coming on. This was a lot of fun being able to talk with you. I could talk baseball pitching for hours and such. This was awesome. Best of luck as far as what you do with Cromwell, the home of the champions. And who knows, hopefully maybe I'll see you down the road either for a playoff game or, if Cromwell could find an opportunity to get to Palmer Field, that would be even better.
Yeah,
Best of luck, man. Keep doing what you're doing.
appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Always. I'll wrap things up in the CT Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent. I'm going to try to find them all. Do this shit, everybody, and be well.